Onegaishimasu. Okay, it's a very good habit to first thing, tune in, body awareness, becoming embodied, entering the body with our awareness, with our consciousness. Because a lot of the time throughout the day, we're somewhere else. We're either in here with our mind or elsewhere. So it's a chance to get more organic and whole. We want to train ourselves to keep coming back home. Enter the tissues with our awareness. And then adjusting, maybe noticing places that are slumped or collapsed, places that are tight, constricted. So just the awareness itself starts a process of reintegrating, reopening, re-enlivening. A couple specifics are always good to do very consciously, very specifically. Releasing the abdomen. Releasing the lower back. Usually that's tight, curved, hanging the tailbone or hanging the hips. And to lengthen, release that area. Same thing back here, neck. That's also tends to be tight and kinked. Another one is the shoulders, consciously dropping the shoulders, letting the weight of the arms pull the shoulders straight down. So these usually very specific things to go to because they're typically areas that are always needing to be adjusted. But also globally checking, scanning, releasing. Noticing any extra stuff in the feet. Let the feet release a little bit. One specific thing that comes up with that, talking about the feet, especially if when you consciously relax them, want to make sure you're not rolling in. That can be a very common thing to roll in on the arches, and that pinches the knee in. So the feet are fully flat on the ground except for the arch. So there's a hollow in the arch. And sometimes when we think of relaxing the feet, we might let a drooping or collapsing in, rolling on the arch. So a little bit of space in the arch. Knees are right over the feet. So ears are right over the shoulders. Shoulders right over the hips. Hips right over the feet. And in Tai Chi, we mentioned a string, suspending the head from above. That's just another way of approaching this, where you can just hang out. Now, from this integrated, connected, and relaxed place, we want to move from and try not to leave this integrated, relaxed quality and feeling. And notice when we do leave it and come back. So from here, for example, we'll start some basic arm swings. It is really good to remind ourselves to bend those knees a little bit. So as we go into a bit of movement, we notice what we lose. One of the first things that tends to happen, and even a very simple movement, is we come in and up, typically in the shoulders, stomach area, lower back. So noticing those constrictions, that disintegration happens, we come back to, that's why we spend time in just standing, to get a quality sense of that. So we get a red alert when we lose those qualities. They can reestablish them. And then feet a little further apart, knees out, feet out. So add a weight shift. And notice when we're, again, tightening. Another very common thing we need to watch out for, an untrained situation, is people will throw their mass around or leaning. So we don't want to crudely throw our mass around. So we're back to this idea of standing work, standing practice. We're just stationary to work on all these things in a more isolated microscope way. And a stationary allows us that microscope, because when we start moving, there's a lot of things to think about or feel. So one of the things we work on in that standing is vertical alignment. Totally vertical, bone on top of bone, very fine line here. And we want to keep that even when we're shifting the weight. So it's as if we're still here. So that's why we often first start with a hip turn without any weight shift, just right here in the center, and we just turn the hips. And then we go into a weight shift to gradually go into more and more movement, but still keep our center line, all the other things we talked about, but now specifically the center line. So when we're not shifting our weight, it's easier to keep our center line. But we want to keep that center line now, even though we're shifting the weight, as if we're just still doing standing work. So this wouldn't be keeping my center line, that kind of thing. So this developing this pristineness, this integration, even in movement, eventually even in dynamic movement, eventually even in very, very dynamic, even fast movement. So we get to keep our integration, our poise, no matter what we're doing. Again, checking with the abdomen, lower back, release. And maybe even a little more challenging is the hip turn the other way, where we shift the weight and turn the hip to the empty leg. That might be even more challenging because there's more of a tendency to lean, in this case back. It does take strength to be able to sit into that hip, be vertical. That does take strength. If we don't have that strength, we compensate by using the upper body. But when we use the upper body, we separate from the lower body. We raise our center of gravity, center of mass. We're not stable. Again, we're disintegrated. So how can I hang? So a lot of times it's good to actually just come back to stillness, either come back to really slow or even stillness to reintegrate vertical line, weight underside, releasing, and then go back into movement. Releasing the abdomen. And maybe we'll take the arm swings into this direction. Again, same things to work on. And this action is going to be, again, a tendency to throw our mass, lean forward and or lean back. We get a chance here to work a bit with the idea of using the ground force. Pressing down shifts the weight for me. Upper body is just going along for the ride. Arms, including the shoulders, become softer and softer. Here we get a chance to hang out and release the abdomen. And also, with these arm swings, in particular this one, we also get to work with weight underside or working with gravity. So really becoming conscious of the weight of the arms all falling and gathering into the tips of the fingers. So aligning with gravity, agreeing with gravity, letting gravity work. And so eventually gravity becomes our ally. So here we get a chance to really experience the sensation of gravity, in particular through the arms, right through the hands and fingers. So again, normal tendency is to be fighting gravity, shirking away from it. Here we get to align, let it work more and more thoroughly and purely through our whole structure, especially our arms. And still maintain this poisedness, this uprightness. Other side. And since we've been doing these arm swings, there's again the one arm swing. Quick review of that. A couple different ways you could generate the power to drive this arm. One is turning the hips. Hip goes back, hip goes forward. Hip back, hip forward, hip back, hip forward. The whole idea is to not use the arm to do that. Totally release. In fact, let the arm open and lengthen. And just deriving the movement from natural forces of gravity and momentum. And letting gravity take the arm. Get an opportunity to work with gravity, align with gravity, sense gravity. And start going the other way. So the hip goes back, that sends the arm back. Hip comes forward, sends the arm forward. So again, the mechanics of that, hip goes back, swings the arm back and up, hip comes forward, swings the arm forward, down. Not the arm. How much can you release and let go? And let gravity take that arm completely. Experience and enjoy the sensation of gravity for a few moments. And switching to the other side. So that hip coming forward is going to swing the arm forward and up. Hip coming back brings the arm back. So working from legs and core, nothing in the arms. Even having your hand here is an opportunity to train yourself to be center oriented. It's an anchor for the mind. Again, releasing. So big aspects that we're always working on are alignment, awareness of alignment, releasing, releasing, releasing. Using gravity, momentum, rather than constrictive, contracting muscles. And letting gravity take that arm. Choosing to agree with gravity. Sending the hip back, sends the arm back and up. Hip coming forward, sends the arm forward. Center awareness. Knees are nicely bent. And letting gravity take it. Now, just as a thorough review, another dynamic is rather than the hip turn driving the arm, it's simply the weight shift. And then it can be a combination of both. But it's good to be distinct and clear on the mechanism you're using for the power and the movement. So now I'm just going to shift the weight forward and back. I release one foot down, then the other foot down. Release down the front leg, sends me back, release down the back leg, sends me forward. And this one maybe requires a bit more of a sense of timing and rhythm. So just doing this action, just like we did these arm swings here, exactly the same, but it's just going to be one arm moving. And it just completes a full circle instead of just the bottom of the circle. So just shifting the weight forward and back. And then this is nice because I really get a sense that it's just the legs, the pulsing of the leg into the ground. It's just the legs that are generating the force, not the arm at all. So this is completely neutral. In fact, so relaxed and neutral that the shoulder joint should be allowed to open, expand and open. Hang from the strings, your spine is nice and long and straight, the belly is released. And letting gravity take that arm completely. So I shouldn't be stopping. Okay, I stopped doing it, bring my arm to stillness. That's me doing that. Just let gravity naturally, on its own time, take the arm to vertical stillness. And then I'll have the arm swung the other way, completely from the legs or from the ground, timing that. Letting go, releasing the shoulder joint. So that process and ability and skill to release, that's a big deal. It's a skill in and of itself, especially for most of us in this society. That letting go, releasing, relaxing has to be a skill Otherwise, we're not doing it. And gravity taking the arm. Let's go the other way. Other arm. So simply shifting the weight or pulsing to the ground, let that propagate through the body to eventually cause a bigger and bigger swing in the arm. So another aspect we're getting from this is propagating the ground force through the entire body right to our peripherals. So that's effective in doing strikes and doing any technique, is propagating the ground force right through our body, through our structure, right to our peripherals. And letting gravity take that arm. And pulsing, generate a swing the other way. Just shifting the weight forward and backward. Weight under side, so each time the arm swings through the bottom, should be completely weight falling to the fingertips. And choosing to let gravity work through that arm completely and through the entire body. Okay. So we'll just spend a moment here to work on getting that relaxed rhythmical movement to, again, propagate through the entire body, right down through the legs, right down to the feet. So it makes our heels rock and bounce slightly, not because we're doing it, but because of this reverberation. So we'll just spend some time with this, just breathing naturally with this, get that rocking through the whole body. Good. Now we'll employ the breathing, breathing in, breathing out for 3 drops. Breathing in, long, deep, slow breath in through the nose. Breathing out through the mouth for 3 drops. Opening the entire body so the body be moved by the rocking and shaking. And letting gravity work, weight under side, weight falling to the fingertips, bottoms of the shoulders, bottoms of the hips, weight settling under side, belly released. Okay. So again, let me know if there's any questions. So last class, we actually worked on the last couple moves. So let's go back to the top. Taino Henko. This is something that we're quite familiar with. So let's just see if we're doing okay with that. So if I demonstrate a couple of those. Partner's grabbing the outside of the wrist. I come offline. Big Henko. So we want lots to work on these with these basic movements. I want good structure. This is the same as Minucci. A little bit lower than Minucci. Here, gate on, lower level. I mentioned before, there's lots of variations in this, in the movement and the shape, from straight wrists to quite bent wrists and much lower. Actually, even lower is a possibility. So lots of variations. Generally, what we're doing for our purposes, not really, really low. So here, and a slight bend in the wrists. Definitely palms up. And this is elbows out from the hips. Coming offline, and as we drop that foot, it turns a bit, so that initiates that tenkon, but also keeps us pointed towards our partner. And the other day we were working on not just swinging this leg around in a gross, crude manner, but if we were to stop that move halfway, we're actually just here in a T stance. First part is a Tenkai, then Tenkon. So I come offline, turn on that front foot here into a T stance, and then finish. So Tenkai, Tenkon. So we won't spend much time on that. We reviewed that fairly clearly the other day. So the basic idea is getting offline, not throwing that leg around in a big arc. I'm simply turning my hips. In other words, offline, Tenkai, Tenkon. Being quite aligned here, not leg out, body out. So I do this half turn controlled, then full turn. And the aspect of keeping the wrists in front of the center so it doesn't get stuck behind us. So all that's review. So let's do a few together. Again, let me know if there's any points there you want to discuss. Okay, Migi Hanmi, right side forward. Good alignment. Maybe I'll start facing you, maybe being perhaps a mirror image. So imagine your partner's grabbing, as you know, would be the outside of the wrist. Okay, so offline, hips towards your partner still. Half turn, full turn. Weights forward on the front leg, nice straight back. Okay, do a couple more like that. Center line, offline, half turn, full turn. Offline, everything from the center. Do a few facing the same way. Offline, turn. So Bonnie, maybe I'll mention just another detail here. It's easy to lose this, especially when we don't have a partner. And actually it can happen, especially when we have a partner too.
Yeah, I was going to say, yeah.
So I'll make it bigger so it's more obvious. When I step offline and in, that can tend to come up or just kind of tighten in. And then, of course, certainly if someone's actually grabbing you, that will tend to happen for sure. So this will tend to happen in and or up. And even just in a sense of kind of bracing ourselves. Let me see if I can isolate this. As I go into my movement, there's a normal tendency to kind of brace, either coming back or even if I don't go back, kind of bracing, right? Normal tendency to kind of brace before we do something. Tighten or almost protecting ourselves as we do something, a bit of a bracing. Now, we spent a lot of time, especially during the summer in the park, with body opening exercises, developing Aikido body, which is largely simply opening up the joints, enlivening, engaging the fascia. And that's a process we want to be doing all the time. So the antidote to the normal thing of, huh, is to do the opposite of that. Even if it's quite muscular at first, even if I'm pushing things open, just like when we do regular standing or Minucci, we exaggerate it, big, and at first most people are going to be quite tight about it. But that's better than being curtailed and tight. Being here and tight, it's better to be out here. We don't want to be tight, we want to be released and open, but everybody's tight at first. But at least we're getting to the right shape. And then we can relax more and more, refine more and more. So the normal tendency of shirking in, coming in and or up, literally if you just go the other direction. So as I step into that front leg and turn, that's what's going to cause the issues we're talking about. That creates this. So to make that step. So I can just do exactly the opposite, send my intention the other way from the normal way, even if it's just very muscular at first. So I send my shoulder and elbow down and out. So you can see that. You might be able to see it's maybe a little tense. But that's better structure, at least it's not collapsed. and at least it's extending out. Now, I definitely want to be opening that. Now, you have a fair amount of experience now with opening the body, opening the joints, releasing the joints. So that's the mechanism to have that happen. Not a muscular pushing, but an expansion release. It's actually an opening, softening, relaxing. It's a relaxing, opening action that makes that shape and that extension. We want to do that in everything we do, even the most martial things we do, we want that process going on. Of course, the more martial we get, the more this tends to happen. So when I step off and do that action there, I try to notice any little bit of coming in, tightening, coming up, and I want to flow out, open those joints, just as if we're doing the Aikido body exercises. So let's keep that in mind as we step off, flow through the arm, and eventually you want that to be equal through both arms, both shoulders, all the joints. First, it might be easier just to focus on what you're doing here, but really it'll be everywhere. Okay, so we step off line. Maybe a very simple way of putting that, Bonnie, is that as I step off line and turn, I simply make my arm longer. Energetically, that might be a very simple way of approaching it. So I step off line, make my arm longer, continues to get longer through both arms as I finish the turn. Maybe we'll do a couple with that approach. Offline, step off line, turn, get longer through the shoulders and arms. That might be a pretty good antidote to normal tendency. As I step offline and turn, I lengthen through the shoulders and arms and continue lengthening as I settle into the end position. And for our purposes, the weight stays in the right leg at the end, forward stance. That's one of the variations that can be seen. Some people actually be more in a back stance. So different approaches, different purposes. For us, you can think mainly that we want to lead our partner a little bit. So if I'm the uke, I'm led forward a little bit, kazushi. If I maintain connection, I'm led forward by that forward stance. Just like in the basic footwork, we're emphasizing and prioritizing the forward stance, strong attitude. Let's do a few on the other side. So I'll do a few facing the same direction. Offline, I'm going to actually lengthen my arm or arms in the opposite direction of the tendency. So if you maybe watch me do one or two, might be fairly visible to see this even through this medium. As I step and turn and my weight shifts forward, all the things I talked about with the arm, it's done by not the arm tightening. Maybe it can be perhaps seen to a certain extent. This is open. It's relaxed. It's open, relaxed. It's releasing, lengthening, but there isn't any tightness, rigidness, inness. So from here, 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 here. So it's actually very soft, but it's dynamically flowing. What gives it structure is a clear flow of intention, intentional flow. Without that intentional flow, my body is very soft, just be doing this, be doing an arm swing or arm drop. But because I have intentional vectors, it creates a shape. But other than that, it's this. Flowing out. So that's open, elbows pointed slightly, open. Okay, let's do a few more. Offline. Okay. So, Kokyoho Undo, same movement, same footwork. We're just going to be adjusting the action of the arm slightly. So you can think of this as Tai no Henko, what we just did, continuously. So it is like we've done this many times in class. The uke partner does continuous attacks. They come in to grab, they come right through, followed by another, coming through, followed by another one, followed by another one. So it's continuous Tai no Henko. So ki no nagare is ki flow, continuous movement, flowing movement. So that looks like this. So I hang out vertically. Moving as a unit. We want to avoid coming up and down, bobbing up and down. The weight is sinking through the hips continuously. And maintaining center line awareness. So the back foot coming forward does the arm switch for me. So I'm not doing things with my arms. Simply turning around my center line, stepping forward, turns, reverses the shape of my body. Then as I step and turn, sink the weight down that leg, that's why the arm changes shape. So I'm not doing stuff with my arms. As I step and turn, sink into that hip. That's all. Then continue turning that hip. So I step and turn. Then as I finish my tenkon, this simply comes to a center line. I step, other hand comes forward to center line, step and turn. To center line. Yeah, so let's have a look at that. See how you do with that.
Go the other way? Or is it?
Pardon me?
Would it be better for me to go the other way, I guess, back and forth this way?
Yeah, try it that way too. Yeah. Yes. That's very nice. That's very, very good. That is it. Okay, tenkon, 90 degrees and 180 with the slide step. So this is review. We've done this. So if we start with the 90 degrees, I'll just maybe illustrate a couple. So again, Minucci, we'll do the Minucci version, which is straight up, straight down. Slide step back to T stance. Slide step entrance. Verticality. The feet drive the arms. So by pushing up that back foot, drive the arms. I don't even want to say up. I want to say out. If I think up, it'll foreshorten it. Out. Slide stepping back draws the arms out to come back here. So that's just to avoid this getting short and tight, nice and big. Okay, let's do a few together. So let's say one count is there and back. We'll start slow here. Each. Knee. Sa. Shi. O. Rope. Siege. Hutch. Okay, that's excellent. So yes, I can really see nice extension. That's exactly what I want to see. It's nice, full maximum extension. Very nice. Your movement is smooth. Nice big slide step. It's excellent.
Yeah.
Let's do 180 degrees. So right leg forward. Let's do a few together. So each. Knee. On. She. Go. Rope. Siege. Hutch. Excellent, excellent. Very nice, yeah.
Balance a bit when you're moving, hey?
So that reminds me of a quote that's attributed to O-sensei. And one of our teachers pointed out as well about what O-sensei said. So O-sensei, he didn't say, don't lose your balance. He didn't even say, keep your balance. He said, regain your balance quickly. So we're going to lose our balance.
Yeah.
Maybe we're on a slightly different floor surface. Maybe our equilibrium is off today. Many, many reasons and a myriad of influences. So it's not that we don't lose our balance. This is that we develop the capacity and ability to regain our balance very, very quickly, instantaneously. Of course, standing, especially walking, especially running, is a continuous correcting of falling, right? It's micro adjustments continually. So even standing still is microly correcting from falling, correcting, avoiding, preventing falling from happening. We're doing that all the time. So we just get better at being adaptive, spontaneously flowing from moment to moment, from space to space, adjusting more and more naturally, spontaneously. A helpful technical aspect to help us do that is the hanging from the string. If I'm up here, upper body, like most people are, they're uptight, upper body, again, their upper body's wavering, their mass gets swung around. It's like someone on a ship. The ship is rolling in a storm. About here. If I'm from here down, so that hanging from a string or weight falling through the hips continually, of course, that physically, technically bends our knees a bit more. But even eventually, if we don't bend our knees hardly at all, we have the same process occurring. So we have the same stability and flexibility as if we had our knees really bent. So that's a technicality that actually will really help, is that I'm always hanging from the string or the weight's always falling through my hips. I lose my balance here on purpose. I'm falling straight down. Lose my balance, I go straight down. Of course, that takes strength in the legs to support you in the straight down. That's another reason why people will tend to not do that. They use upper body and correct from the upper body because they can't rely on their leg strength. So we need that solid, strong base.
Well, I do find I'm trying to remember to be more, get my back flatter on a regular basis.
The lower back.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's crucial.
That's part of that hanging out, right? Is keeping that whole alignment.
Yes. hanging out will create that shape. And having the lower back virtually flat unifies the upper and lower body. So they're not segmented, not split. Of course, it will also lower the center of gravity. So a nice imagery, sometimes we've done this in class, is if we're standing like a normal person, just fairly uptight, and they're especially tight here, there's a segment here, like right where the belt is. It's like a dotted line, upper body, and then lower body. And so we've done this in class. If someone pushes from up here, you tilt or you break from here. If you're hanging out or you flatten the lower back, you become one piece. Now when you're pushed, you're like a ball. So when you're pushed, you move like a ball. You can't push the ball over. It's because now you're one piece as opposed to being segmented. So having that shape is actually the most important thing. The most important thing for the first number of years. This is in Tai Chi as well. Any martial art, I'd say maybe dance too. I'm guessing that might be the same. It's shape. If I'm a ballet dancer, shape. I don't know what their process of teaching and learning is, but I wouldn't be surprised if first and foremost it's getting the shape and then refining from there. But certainly in martial arts, certainly in internal martial arts, the most important training at first for the first number of years is shape. That's why you're spending so much time with Minucci, Hanmi. Shape is the most important thing. And at first, of course, that means we have to kind of even physically manipulate it mechanically, try to get the shape. But as soon as possible and more, we want that to release and relax. And eventually it happens because of releasing, relaxing, we get that shape. Okay. So, Manichi Shiho Undo. So Shiho is 4. Undo just means exercise. So 4 directions, Minuchi. So maybe I will just demonstrate that once or twice. Again, this is something we're familiar with, but so 4 directions. And then, as we know, we don't just kind of walk over to the front again. Classic Aikido footwork. Irimi Tenkan, or step in, turn. Maybe a detail I'll mention here that I haven't really mentioned before, for a while anyway, as far as the footwork. So I want to bring this foot in and then out. In other words, I don't want to go from here, stepping to the sidewall. So here, I want to come in and then forward. In and then forward. I don't want to just step forward because that creates a big space in the groin and center line. Let's try this here. Here. So when I step here, I come in and forward. This protects my center line, as opposed to, so each, knee, san. And that really comes naturally from lots of sword work or weapons work. It's kind of, I think that tends to happen naturally to a certain extent with weapons work. So we want to keep weapons quality, weapons feeling in mind. But basically it's so we're not stepping open, right? So I come in here, okay? So that's on that third on number 3. So let's do a couple of those together. So each, knee, here, san, shi, irimi tenkan, each, knee, san, shi. Knees are nice and bent, weight is sinking through the hips. Each, Ni, San, Shi, Irumi Tenkan. So if you want to go ahead and do 2 or 3 more rotations, we'll have a look here.
Yeah, I was kind of wrong there. I was focusing too much on my feet.
Okay.
Sorry. Okay, let me try it again here.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
That's right. That's it. Okay. Maybe one more here. Yushiro Shiko. So of course that's backwards moving Shiko. And again, the purpose is to move from the hips, move from the core, and have the body be one unit. So not heaving the upper body, but rotating around the center vertical axis from the hips. So that would be okay. So we'll do too much of that, but if you want to do a few.
I think I can do it without my toes up.
Good. So were your toes in the live position or?
No, I can't get them in the live position here yet.
Okay, so what you can do is to spend time watching TV or what have you, just here in the stationary position. And even if it's just 30 seconds at a time to start with.
Okay.
And then do that several times in the day.
Okay.
And even just 30 seconds at a time, do that several times in the day. And then you can build up to a bit more time until you're actually spending some time with your watching TV or what have you. And you'll be able to. Yeah. Okay, so let's do misogi. Same awareness we started with. Entering the body fully with our presence. Letting the abdomen release, open and expand. We breathe in, letting the belly and the torso expand with the breath, pushing the arms out. Breathing out, letting the abdomen and torso empty, so it comes back in, drawing the arms back in. So again, it's not sourced from the arms. Expanding out from the center in all directions, retracing, consolidating back to the center as you breathe out. The arms are just following what the mind and breath are doing. Eventually, the arms are moved by the movement of the breath and mind. So it's not even that the arms are following, they are moved completely by the expansion of the breath and the retracing of the breath back. So the arms are buoyed, just like a sail filled with wind. Arms are moved by expanding, moving energy, by the moving mind. So it becomes more and more organic, not intellect, where you're just timing it physically. The arms are actually moved. And a little bigger action, breathing in, palms up, coming up on the toes. Breathe out, coming down the center line, sinking to the hips, and then beyond down through the legs and feet. It's like you're pressing the energy down, out through your legs and feet. Breathing in, it's like you're scooping up energy, gathering energy from the horizon and the sky, directing it down your body, through your legs, feet, into the earth. Scooping up energy, directing energy down through the body into the earth. Good. Coming to the center here, and then breathing in, opening up the chest, breathing out, hands come back to the center, rounding the upper back slightly. Breathing in is opening the chest. It's like the breath does it for you. The breath makes the shape of the body. Breathing out opens the back. Let the breath move the body. Good. Breathing in, coming up on the toes. It's like you're drawing energy from the earth into the body. Breathing out, expulsing air through the body back into the earth. And then again, breathing in, expanding, opening the chest a bit, breathing out, opening the back a bit. So just a bit smaller motion, smaller movement, but opening the chest here, opening the back. So here the chest opens and expands, breathing out, the shoulder blades spread apart from each other a bit. From the breath itself. And then resting at the center, breath is just resting in the belly, weight falling through the hips into the feet. And gently coming out. Okay, let's bow out.
Domo arigato gozaimasu. Thank you very much.
So thank you.
That was great.
Good. Yeah, that was we covered some good ground there in good detail. Lots to work on there.
For sure.
Have a good evening.
All right, we'll see you tomorrow.
Oh, great. See you
Thank you.
tomorrow.
Okay.
Good night.